How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Mem Zayin, Daf 47 of Masechta Yevamos. Friends, Daf 47 we talk about conversion to Judaism. I think it's pretty interesting. So yeah, some details about that. It's pretty interesting stuff in my opinion, but I don't want to sort of psychologically anchor your opinion. So I empower you to develop your own opinion. Don't just go with my opinion. Develop your own opinion. Friends, we're going to start on Daf. We're going to start on Daf Mem Vav Mud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom. Tana Rabbanan. The Rabbi taught Mishabave Omar. You have a fellow. He comes and he says, Ger Oni, I am a proselyte. Yochol Nikablenu. Excuse me. Still have a shtickle cough, Lamaisa. Can we just believe him that he's a proselyte? Tamalomar Itro. Pasuk says, Ki yogur Itro Ger. So Itro b'muchzak l'cho. You have to have a chazaka. It's not enough that he just says, I'm a proselyte, and we can accept him. But we have to have a little more than that. A little shtickle more oomph. What do you guys think of the word oomph? It's not bad. Oomph. Okay. Ba ve'edav imo minayin. How do we know that if he comes with witnesses who testify that he is a proselyte, that we can believe him? Tamalom v'chiyager. Skip the next 2 words. It says v'chiyager, and Rashi says mikol makom. If he comes with witnesses, we can believe him. The Gemara is going to ask later on, isn't it obvious that we can believe him? If there's witnesses, that's like, the ABCs of like how laws work in Judaism. You have witnesses, we trust them. In your land, all I know is that we accept proselytes in Eretz Yisrael. How do we know that we even accept proselytes in Chutzlaretz? Therefore the pasuk says, Itcho bichol makom she'ato. With you, wherever you are. And the Gemara is going to ask later on, didn't we already learn out from Itcho that b'muchzak l'cha? Okay, we'll get there as well. So if we can accept proselytes even in Chutzlaretz, then how come it says not ba'aretz but ba'aretz sechem, right? Yeah, ba'aretz sechem. So ba'aretz tavi lavi raya, that in Eretz Yisrael a fellow who claims to be a proselyte has to bring proof, because as Rashi says, maybe we should write second line of Rashi, maybe because of the praise of Eretz Yisrael, he wants to be a Yid. Friends, as I've said many times, I think maybe even I mentioned it yesterday, the Paris of Eretz Yisrael are the most geschmacke Paris. I'm telling you, let me give you some examples. The grapefruits right now, out of this world. I hope they're from Eretz Yisrael. Regardless of where they're from, the grapefruits in Eretz Yisrael are more geschmack than the grapefruits in Teaneck, New Jersey. What do you want me to tell you? Wherever they're coming from, they're more geschmack. And the peppers, let me tell you, the yellow peppers, I get yellow peppers because when I make a salad, so I put in cucumbers, which are green, tomatoes, which are red, so I don't want to use red peppers because it's too much red, so I use the yellow peppers. Those yellow peppers, and then you have red, green, and yellow. A little shtickle color. And the yellow is gewaldig. I'm telling you, in Eretz Yisrael, the pears here are something else. Ooh, I don't know, the tangerines or clementines, whatever they are, out of this world. I'm telling you, friends, you gotta come to Eretz Yisrael and see for yourself. The pears of Eretz Yisrael are top notch. I've been saying this ever since I came back last June. Top notch. So yeah, so I'm not the only one who knows this. Apparently, even the Gentiles know this, to the extent that some people might claim to be a Yid just so that they can get into Eretz Yisrael and eat the pears. You hear this, friends? You hear this? So therefore in Eretz Yisrael you have to bring, so it says ba'aretz sechem, because in Eretz Yisrael you have to bring a proof, because you might just be lying to us because you just want a chaparine from the pears of Eretz Yisrael. B'chutzlaretz and tzarech laviraya. But in Chutzlaretz, you don't have to bring a proof, because, if you say you're a Yid, you say you're a Yid. What do you want me to tell you? It's not like there's any geschmack pears there, and maybe you want to get the internet. Maybe in Chutzlaretz, you're saying you're a Yid so you can get the internet, but anybody can get the internet in Chutzlaretz. You don't have to be a Yid. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, that's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Chacham say ben ba'aretz b'chutz la'aretz tzarich lavi raya, whereas the Chacham say no, regardless of if you're in Eretz Yisrael or in Chutz la'aretz, if you claim to be a proselyte, so then you need to bring a proof. Bahu ve'edav imo kara l'amali. So now we had said earlier that if this proselyte comes with witnesses to testify that he's a proselyte, so then we believe them. Isn't that obvious? We always believe two witnesses. Amr Sheshes, Ta'amrei Shamaynu, Shenizgai Bebezin Shaploni. Says of Sheshes, well, they're not exactly testifying that he's a proselyte. They're testifying that they heard that he's a proselyte. So the Chiddush is that even there we believe them. I would have thought not to believe them, because they're only saying that they heard from the grapevine, but not that they themselves can testify, Kamash Malon. Therefore, that's the Chiddush, that we could believe them even though they're saying that they heard from the grapevine. Ba'artzachem, the Pasuk says in your land, so so we had said, well, if it says Ba'artzachem, I might think that maybe we only accept proselytes in Eretz Yisrael. How do we know anywhere? So it says itcha, right, anywhere where you are. We already used that to learn out there at the bottom line of Membav Mud Beis b'muchzok l'cha, that we can't just trust him if he says he's a proselyte. We have to have some kind of, something to base it on. So that was learned out from itcha. So we can't learn out two things from the same word. So chada me'itcha v'chada me'imoch. So one of them is being learned out from itcha, right? It says chiyagu itcha ger. The other one is learning from imoch, right? Umatuyadu imoch v'chzaktebo ger v'soshav v'chai imoch. So there's itcha and there's imoch. So one teaches that you need a chazake. The other one teaches that it's even that we even accept proselytes in chutzlaretz. V'chacham omim bein ba'aretz bein b'chutzlaretz tzarich lavi raya. The chacham say that whether we're talking about a proselyte in chutzlaretz, whether we're talking about a proselyte in Eretz Yisrael, he has to bring proof. So then what do you learn out from be'artzachem? From in, right? It says in your land. Rabbi Yehuda says, means that in your land you have to bring a proof. Outside of your land you don't. But the chacham say whether in Eretz Yisrael, whether outside of Eretz Yisrael, you have to bring proofs. So what do you learn out from be'artzachem? So Umi Bailei Da'afilu Ba'aretz Mikabim Gerim. That's to teach us that even in Eretz Yisrael we accept proselytes. The Sakadat Chamina may have thought to say Mishum Tivusa Eretz Yisrael Kamagari, that as we discussed a few minutes ago, maybe they're only converting to Judaism so that they could chaparine from the goodness of Eretz Yisrael. Ba'ashtanami Deleka Tivusa, and even though nowadays where in some ways Eretz Yisrael is not as gishmak, as Rashi says, the posak cholav udvash, there's no longer that flowing milk and honey. But remember this, they still have tangerines and grapefruits and yellow peppers, among other things. What else do they have here that's gishmak? I don't know, those things are gishmak. What do you want me to tell you? Those I think are the most gishmak things. I eat other things, but those are the most gishmak ones. Probably. Unless I'm forgetting something. Friends, let's go weiter. So even nowadays, right, the leka tivusa, ikaleka chichacha ofeu meister sheni. But nonetheless, you can also, maybe he'll want to convert to Judaism so he could chaparine from the leket, the shichacha, the peya, right, these things that the poor people would chaparine from the field. Meister oni, I think I said meister sheni, but meister oni. So maybe he's converting to Judaism just so he could chaparine. Kamash malon. Therefore, we're saying that even in Eretz Yisrael we accept proselytes. Omar Reb Chia Bar Abba Omar B'Yochanan Halacha Ben Ba'aretz Ben B'chutzlaretz Tzarich Lavi Raya. The halacha is like the Chachamim, that whether you're in Eretz Yisrael, whether in Chutzlaretz, a proselyte needs to bring proof. Pshita, isn't this obvious? Yochad V'Ab Malacha Kirab. Of course, as we know, when you have a machlokas between many and a singular opinion, we always follow the opinion of the many. So obviously, we're going to pass on like the Chachamim, not like Reb Yehuda. So Madatem Mistaber time of Rabbi Yehuda to come Messiah Kra'e Kamashman. Well, I may have thought that maybe in this instance we do pass on like Rabbi Yehuda because the pasuk kind of seems more in his favor. Ba'artzachem, in your land, in Eretz Yisrael you have to bring a proof. But nonetheless, even so, we still paskin like the Chacham that whether in Eretz Yisrael, whether in Chutzlaretz, you have to bring a proof that you converted to Judaism. Continues the Gemara Tana Rabbanon. The Rabbi Saru Shvatim Tzedek ben Ishu ben Ochiv ben Geiro, that you will judge righteousness between a fellow, his brother, and his proselyte. Mikan there's a rumbling of something outside my window. I'm concerned it's going to distract me. Uh-oh. It's very close by. I see footsteps going upstairs. I'm nervous. Uh-oh. I think somebody left a suitcase outside. I'm very concerned that this is going to be distracting. Let's go weiter. Let's read that again. That you will judge righteously between a fellow, his brother, and his proselyte. From here it says Rabbi Yehuda, Gershin is Gari bebezdin. He's a ger, right? It says Ushvatzetem, which is Mishpat, which is Bezdin. So a proselyte who proselytized? I don't even know if proselyte means convert. If I wasn't a nudnik, I would just say convert, right? Obviously, y'all know that. What the heck is a proselyte? I don't know. So if you have this guy who was a proselyte and he converted in Bezdin, so then Harei Zager, so he's a proselyte. Beinu levenatzmo enu ger. But if he didn't proselytize, he didn't convert in Bezdin, so then he's not a convert. So you have to do it with a Bezdin. There was a story with a certain fellow who came before Rabbi Yehuda, and he says to Rabbi Yehuda, I converted, but just by myself. I didn't do it with a Bezdin. He says to the fellow, do you have witnesses? He says no. Do you have kinder? Yeah, you have children. He says I do. Rabbi Yehuda says to the fellow, well, you are believed to make yourself pasul, i.e., you just admitted that you are not actually a proselyte. So right, meaning we need you to do it in Bezdin. You just admitted that you didn't do it in Bezdin, so we cannot treat you as a proselyte. However, we do not trust you. You are not believed to disqualify your children. So if we assume that his children are Yidden up until now, so we continue to assume that, right? He can make himself pasul, but not his offspring. Does Rabbi Yehuda really say that a fellow is not believed to testify about his children? We learn in the Brisa Yakir that the pasuk says, what does it say? That the father will recognize his child who is the firstborn to give him a double portion of inheritance. So Yakirenu la'acher, that he can make this child, this firstborn child, known to others, i.e. like to Bezdin. Mikana Rabbi Yehuda, from here says Rabbi Yehuda, Neman Odom Lomar Zebni Bechor, that a fellow is believed to testify about his son, that he is in fact his firstborn. U'shem sheneman Lomar Zebni Bechor, kach neman Lomar Zeb ben Grushu or ben Chalutzu, and just like a fellow is believed to testify about his son that he is a firstborn, he's also believed to testify about his son that he is the son of a divorcee, that he's the son of a Chalutzi. A Chol. If he's a Kohen, he's a Chol. I had a friend, of course, who we thought was a Chol, but turns out that not really. So v'chacham enu nemon. Whereas the Chachamim say that he's not believed about his child. No. So I don't understand. You have this proselyte, it comes to Rabbi Yehuda, he says that he converted without a Bezdin. Rabbi Yehuda says he's believed about himself, but not believed about his children. But why is he not believed about his children? Rabbi Yehuda says that he is believed to say that his child is the Bechor, or to say that his child is a Ben Grusha or Ben Chalutza. Why is he not believed to say that his son also would not be considered a proselyte? So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, this is what says Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, that Rabbi Yehuda is saying to this fellow, you're basically saying that you're a Gentile, and therefore we cannot trust your testimony. So therefore, if you're saying that you're a Gentile, then we can't trust you to testify that your kids are also Gentiles. Once you've said that you're a Gentile, we can't trust your testimony anymore, and therefore it doesn't work for your children anymore either, and that is why we cannot trust you about your children at this point. Ravina Amar, Hachi Kamarle. Ravina says that this is what Rabbi Yehuda says to the fellow. Yesh l'cha banim hein. Do you have children? He says yes. Yesh l'cha bnei banim. Do you have einiklach? Do you have grandchildren? Hein. He says yes. Amarle neman ata livsol banecha. He says you're believed to make your children pasul. However, v'ata neman livsol bnei banecha. But you are not believed about your grandchildren. That's what Ravina says. So that preserves the concept that Rabbi Yehuda says that he's believed about his children. He is believed about his children, but not about his grandchildren. Tani Nam Yochi, we learn in the verse like this. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda Neman Adam Lomer Al Beno Ka'in We're assuming that this is talking about being a proselyte, right? So it says we have a brisa that says, Rabbi Yehuda says that a fellow is believed about his young child, but not about his big child. It says when it says a little fellow, it doesn't mamish mean a young fellow. When it says a big fellow, it doesn't mamish mean an older fellow. Rather, if you have, even if he's the younger one, but he has children, then he's considered a gadol. Gadol ve'en lo banim zeu kohen. If you have a bigger guy, but he doesn't have any children, so he's considered a kohen. Meaning that what the Brisa is saying is that if you have one kid who doesn't have, who does not have children, another child who does have children, you'll only be believed about the child without the children, because you only believed about your child, you're not believed about the grandchildren, and therefore, therefore he can't be believed about that child. Right? Because if you have a child with children and you're not believed about the grandchildren, well, Mamela, if he's believed about the children, so that means that his children are not Jewish, which means Mamela, the grandchildren aren't. So if you're not believed about the grandchildren, then you're also not believed about the children. Right? So the point being that we have a brisa that says that Rabbi Yehuda is believed, Rabbi Yehuda says that a fellow is believed about his children, but not believed about his grandchildren. No, so what is it? Right? So meaning, again, we had this story where this proselyte comes to Rabbi Yehuda and says that he converted but without a bezdin. Rabbi Yehuda says he's believed about himself, not about his children. But I thought that he would be believed about his children. So if Nachman bar Yitzchak says, well, in this particular case, since he's saying that he's a Gentile, so that's why he's not believed for his children, because he's a Gentile. But, and says Ravina that the reason why he's not believed is because he also said that he has grandchildren. And, he's not going to be believed about his children when there's grandchildren, because although Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, well, you would be believed about your children, but not believed about your grandchildren. Okay, Vilchsa Kavase, the Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, the halacha follows Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, that the reason why he's not believed is because once he says he's a proselyte, once he's basically determined, we've determined based on what he said that he's actually a Gentile because he didn't convert with a bezdin. So it says of Nachman bar Yitzchak, that's why we cannot believe him about his children anymore, because he's a Gentile. But didn't we have a brisa supporting Ravina that was saying that in this situation he's believed about his children but not about his grandchildren? No, that wasn't regarding somebody who testifies about about being a proselyte. That's talking about as we said, Yakir, right? That he's believed to say that his child is a firstborn, so he's believed about his children, but he's not believed about his grandchildren in that case. But but that brisa is not talking about our case, which is when he's testifying about his the conversion of his children. And therefore, the halacha is like Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, that the reason why he's not believed about his children in this case is because once he says he's, once he basically says that he converted without a bezdin, so we can't trust him anymore with regard to his children. So now, the Gemara talks a shtickle about converting to Judaism. Shtickle interesting. Tana Rabbanan the Rabbis taught, Ger shebal lizgayer b'zman hazeh, a fellow who wants to convert to Judaism in nowadays, Omrim, we say to him, Mari Yisa Shabbos Lizgayer, how come you want to convert to Judaism? Yater Deshi Sobas Manazeh, Dvuyim, Dchufim, Schufim, Torafim. Don't you know that the Yidden right now are afflicted, oppressed, downtrodden, and harassed? Oh. Visurin Bar Nalem, and afflictions come upon them. Im Omer Yodea Ani, Ve'eni Kedai. If he says, yeah, I know, and still I am not worthy. Mikablan also miyad. We accept him immediately. Umudin also mixas mitzvahs kalos, mixas mitzvahs chamuris, and we tell him, a few of the lighter mitzvahs, a few of the more stringent mitzvahs. Umudin also avun leket shichach ofeu meiser ani, and we let him know about the sin associated with violating leket shichach pei meiser ani, these agricultural these parts of the field that are left for the poor people. Modin also onshan so mitzvahs, and we let him know the punishment for mitzvahs, for violating mitzvahs. Omim lo have yodea she'ach lo baso lemidazo. Right, know that prior to converting to Judaism, achalta chelev iyata anush kares. If you ate the forbidden fats of the animal, you weren't chayiv kares. Chilata Shabbos iyata anush skila. If you did melacha on Shabbos, we wouldn't stone you. But now, if you eat certain fats from an animal, or if you do malacha on Shabbos, if you desecrate the Shabbos, we stone you. But now it's not just the bad, right? Just like they let him know the punishments for violating mitzvahs, they also let him know the reward that there is for fulfilling the mitzvahs. So we say to him, that the world to come is only hidden, is only available to the righteous. And the Yidden nowadays in this world are unable to receive too much good or too much bad. But I guess in the world to come, it could be pretty gishmak. And then that's it. They don't go crazy. They let them know sort of the spiel that we just said right now, and that's it. Kibel, if he says, yeah, I'm in. Malin also, immediately we circumcise him. Miyad, immediately. Nishtaribo, tzitzin ma'akvin amila. Chosen umalin also shnia. Okay. If they didn't do a good job, so then they do it a second time. I hope they did a good job. Nisrape, once he heals, matbilin also miyad, so then we immediately, throw him into the mikveh. Wow, that sounds like a roller coaster, dude. The guy's like, yeah, alright, I'm in. Dude, immediately circumcision. He gets better, chuck him in like a mikveh. Okay, welcome to Judaism. There's like 2 Talmidei Chacham dartin. The Modian also mixas mitzvahs kalus and mixas mitzvahs chamurus, and they let him know certain, alright, now you're in, like here, you should know about these mitzvahs. These are easy ones, these more stringent ones. Tova v'Allah, hareu ki Yisrael l'chodvarv. Once he gets out of the mikveh, he's now mamish a yid. Mamish a yid. Isha nashmu shivasosu b'may matzavarav. When a woman converts to Judaism, so women put her into the mikveh until her neck. There's 2 Talmidei Chacham who stand outside, outside. Umodin also mixas mitzvahs kalus, mixas mitzvahs chamuris, and they let her know certain lighter mitzvahs and certain more stringent mitzvahs. Echad ger ve'echad eved meshucher, whether we're talking about a proselyte, whether we're talking about a freed slave, uvmakom. Right, so there's both by a proselyte as well by a freed slave, right? A Canaanite slave, when they go free, so then they become a yid. So they also go to the mikveh and stuff then. Uvmakom shenida toveles sham gev eved meshucher tovlin, and in the same mikveh, a mikveh that is on the caliber of a mikveh that a nida would go to the mikveh in, that is the same caliber of a mikveh that a proselyte or a freed slave would go into. And anything that would be considered a chatzitza, a hindrance, a block, what's a chatzitza? I don't know, chatzitza, by a proselyte and so by tvila, so then also it would be a chatzitza by a proselyte and a slave and a freed slave and a nida, right? You don't want to have these chatzitzas. All right. Omer Mar, we said earlier, Ger Shabbat is Gayer. If you have a fellow who wants to convert to Judaism, Omer Lo, we say to him, Mara Isa Shabbat is Gayer. How come you want to convert to Judaism? Umodimos mixas mitzvahs kalos, mixas mitzvahs chamuris. We let him know some of the easier mitzvahs, some of the more stringent mitzvahs. My time. Why are we it sounds like we're not super thrilled. So the parish nifrosh, yeah, well, actually, yeah, we kind of are, we kind of don't necessarily make it so accessible. And it's like, if he's going to bounce, he'll bounce. And that's fine. The Reb Chabal says, that proselytes are difficult for the Yidden, like, skin diseases. That the proselytes will come to the Yidden and they will be like a sapachas on Beis Yankiv. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, not really sure what to do with that. Modim also oven leket shichacha ufei u'maisorani, and we said that, and we let him know about the transgressions inherent in in violating leket, shichicha, and peah, and meiser ani, right? These parts of the field that are left for the poor. My time, how come we have to let him know about these things? Well, because a ben Noach, by the Shiva, I believe it's saying that by the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach, so interestingly, they only have 7 mitzvahs, but each one, like if you violate them, there isn't much tolerance, chayiv misa. So therefore, a ben Noach, for theft, he would be chayiv misa, and therefore, and that's even like less than a shvei pruta. And we're basically saying to him, like, look, when it comes to Judaism, like, you're not chayiv misa for that. Like, you just return it. Ve'eshev v'sagzela, you return it. And therefore, like, if you're going to be so crazy, like, just make sure, like, you're not so crazy about people stealing from you, because we have, like, a different, like, thing around that. Alright? Vein marbim olav, vein medaktikin olav. And but after that, we don't like once we like tell him these few things, we kind of like, then we don't like push it too far. Like we let, if he wants to convert, so like at that point it's like, all right, cool, man. Omer Rebbe Elazar says, Rebbe Elazar Micro, where do we have a pasuk for this? The pasuk says in Rus that who was Rus's mother-in-law? Rus, who's Naomi? Who's Naomi? Is that her mother-in-law? Oh, this is embarrassing. I'm like supposed to know this, right? Who's Orpah? Orpah was like the sister-in-law, right? Naomi. That was like Rus's mother-in-law, right? That's embarrassing. Vater kimisametzes. Wait, maybe the pasuk says. Oh, this is really embarrassing. Alright. Well, that's embarrassing. Vater kimisametzes hilaleches. That, well, let's assume it's Naomi. That Naomi saw that Rus was going to leave. No, I'm sorry, the opposite. That Rus was determined not to leave her, determined to stick with her. So Naomi stopped trying to dissuade her. Naomi says to Rus that we're not allowed to walk more than 2,000 amas on Shabbos. Rus says, wherever you walk, I'll walk. We're not allowed to be in a closed quarters with forbidden arayas. I'll sleep where you sleep. There are 613 mitzvahs. Rus says, look, your nation's my nation's, whatever the mitzvahs are. Naomi says, look, we're not allowed to worship idols. Rus says, whatever, your God's my God. We have 4 types of capital punishment. However you die, I'll die. There's 2 burial sections given to Bezdin for the different people that are killed. Look, I'll be buried there. At that point, Naomi saw like, alright, she ain't going nowhere. Fine, let's do this. Kibel Molan also miyad. If this fellow accepts, he's determined to become a Yid, so immediately we circumcise him. My time is shehuya mitzvah lo mashinan, because we don't want to wait for them for mitzvahs. If there are parts of the foreskin that weren't properly removed, so as we learn in the Mishnah, these are the parts of the foreskin that must be removed. Okay, that is the flesh that covers most of the top of the penis. Alright? And if you don't have a proper bris milas, then you can't eat truma if you're a kohen. Okay, says Rabbi Yirmiyah Ba'aba, and then Rav that this is the flesh that covers most of the height of the top of the penis. Once he heals, then immediately we throw him into the mikveh. Nisape in, nisape lo, or maybe it's a statement, kilu, we dafka wait till he heals, not before then. My time, how come? Because water can irritate a wound, so don't throw him into the mikveh until he has healed. There's 2 Talmidei Chacham who stand on him, who stand above him. I think it's Barabba, right? Yeah. But then Rabbi Yochanan said in Rabbi Yochanan that a convert needs 3, not 2. Rabbi Yochanan Latano, Tni Shlosha. Rabbi Yochanan Taka said to this fellow, it should be 3 Talmidei Chacham that stand above him. Tavav Allah Areu Ki Yisrael L'chol Dvarav. Once he comes out of the mikveh, that's it. He's in. He's a yid. L'may Hilchso. What's the nafkamina? The Hadar Bey. If at this point he changes his mind, too late. Mekadesh Babas Yisrael, and he is Mekadesh, a Jewish girl. Yisrael Mumar Karina Bey V'Kiddush of Kiddushin. Well, we treat him as a Yisrael Mumar. Kidu. Once he comes out of the mikveh, he's a yid. It's too late. He can't turn back now. And even if he goes off the derech at this point, we treat him like a yid who went off the derech. And if he's Mekadesh, a woman, so it's the same significance as a fellow yid who's not shomer Torah mitzvahs, who's Mekadesh, a woman. What do you want me to tell you? Once he comes out of the mikveh after doing all these things, he's a Jew. Friends, that was Daf Mem Vav, that was Daf Mem Zayin, Masechta Yevamos. Who could tell me what we talked about today on Daf Mem Vav? We talked about all sorts of things about proselytes in Eretz Yisrael, Chutz La'aretz, right? That you have to be a proselyte in Bezdin, and then we talked about proselytes converting to Judaism Bizman Hazeh, right? That we try, we try to maybe dissuade him a shtickle, but ultimately we accept him, and he becomes like the rest of the Yidden. Friends, that was Daf Mem Zayin of Masechta Yevamos. I hope you enjoyed. Peace out.